Matthaios stands before a spiritual gate, gazing upon his destiny. A voice has spoken to him from the celestial eagle that descended from the seventh star. It called to him to follow its light and to reject the serpent, with its wicked coils that will surely shatter him. Of the three visages before him, the first draws him in with the image of the majestic star imbuing the blade he holds. He walks ahead through the grand archway. It leads him down a long and hazy corridor. The corridor ends in a chamber with a massive vaulted ceiling reminiscent of the shrine of the scaled oracle, though instead of serpent statues, there are statues of ascendants, tall figures, giants in splendorous array, beings of transcendent power and knowledge. Their faces are erudite and sublime, with garb that appears as part raiment, part armor, all fashioned with wondrous intricacies and elegant lines, along with the many esoteric runes of their kind. He beholds these magnificent effigies of stone. Though they are but sculptures frozen in time, he senses that they call out to him. Through the mists of time they cry. Their voices are deep, resonant, and in the tongue of that bygone race. A shaft of light comes beaming down through the statue chamber, the shining of the seventh star. The eyes and faces of the ascendants reflect the luminescence and focus it onto Matthaios. Beams fill the Neophyte, radiating through him, surging with that great astral power.
What have we done? How could we have dared to bring our towers to such heights, to decide over life and death? O divine grace, have mercy upon us. The dream of godhood is too great, even for us.
The voices drift away, along with the haze of the dream vision. Matthaios finds himself walking a shadowed corridor. His head swims as through a liquid cloud, and his right hand burns. He comes to the next sliver of light and looks. The mark of the scaled oracle is upon his hand where she bit him. There are 2 fang punctures, each with a scarred discoloration running from it, one arcing up and to the right from the left puncture, and the other arcing down and to the left from the right puncture. Weary and disoriented, he finds his way back to the shrine sanctum. There he seeks out a haven from whatever bewildering and transformative experience he just endured.
Rest for now, Neophyte. Soon you shall be Neophyte no more. Rest.
In the golden light of dawn, Matthaios awakens. He is resting upon a silken sleeping mat in the shrine of the scaled oracle. She brings him water and food in the form of fresh fruit and bird eggs. His head clears, and his vigor returns, stronger than ever.
What is this?
The Icoriite woman points to a rune glowing upon Matthaios' armor. He looks at the chain shirt neatly laid out nearby. An ascendancy rune burns within the chest area of the armor, reddish and sweltering, as though just removed from a forge.
Fire. A secret rune of fire, harnessed, entrusted to me by a greater power. And see here.
He holds up his shield, which displays a second rune, which emanates a subtle mistiness.
Cloud. This too was given to me to wield, to steward.
Such runes of power have not been wielded for generations, and certainly not by any human person. Take great care, young man. These are beyond your ken.
Matthaios, as if by instinct, touches the two runes. They respond to him, thrumming waves of energy through his mind and body, in unison with his spirit. He turns to the serpent woman and speaks in the tongue of the Ascendants.
Your warning will not go unheeded, but do not overstep your authority, daughter of the serpent. Your venom brought me to the brink of mortality, and I have returned anew.
The oracle's mouth hangs open in shock. She says in the common tongue,
You are speaking Kyriarchos. How is this possible?
You are the oracle. Tell me what fate you see unfolding within me.
The scaled Icoriite stares at the warrior. She breathes in deeply, searching out with her mystic senses. The next moment, she recoils, hissing.
You should leave this place. An ill boding comes over me.
The oracle withdraws away from Matthaios, seeking out seclusion behind one of the great snake statues. The Neophyte dons his armor and sets his equipment in place upon his person.
I have no want of lingering about this place anyhow.
As he exits the shrine, he catches a glimpse of a shadow, long and slinking out of the corner of his eye.
Dread serpent, you protect your children, while at the same time you poison them and crush them.
He descends the steps leading away from the shrine and returns through the corridor that leads to the chamber overgrown with blood-vein mold. Without the aid of antitoxin, the flight across the fungus-laden room is going to be distinctly more perilous. His only solace is in knowing that he will be through the hazard in a short amount of time. Before stepping through the door and back into the crimson mold, he removes the serpent idol from his travel pack.
I am not taking you with me here or anywhere.
He lets the bronzen statuette fall to the ground. He then takes a deep breath and sprints ahead. He rushes through the open door, across the platform, and onto the stairway. The minuscule spores kick up, clinging immediately to him. He fights through the sickly sensation that creeps across his skin and hustles down the stairway. He does not know how much longer his luck is going to hold out. Putting all his force into his legs, he sprints across the final section of the chamber. He comes, huffing through the exit of the mold-infested chamber. An awful, burning sensation rings at his entire body. The spores have sapped his health. The toxin leaves him with a sickly fatigue.
I have to return home. I cannot stop.
He is unsure exactly how many hours remain before Bastus sets out to hunt him. But there are certainly still several hours to go, as the morning is yet young and cool, and it was late afternoon when the Serpent Guard had issued his decree.
I will face him if I must. I will not be compliant in the instituting of another tongue of truth. Truth. It is the tongue of wicked whims, and I will play no part in another neophyte being chosen for sudden death.
Matthaios reaches the area with the Ankeg burrow. He slows down to a careful and quiet pace, and keeps to where there is a thick stone wall giving him cover to one side. He slinks through the passageway, then through a small chamber with weeds and moss overtaking half of it. He peers out from behind the final jut of the wall. The stairs have extended back to their original position, and the slain Ankeg is not there. It looks to have been dragged down inside the burrow. Otherwise, Matthaios does not notice anything else of importance. He decides to make a run for the stairs, hoping to ascend them fast enough to reach the top before they have retracted into the wall. It is a steep and high stairway, reaching up about 30 feet. He gets into an ideal position, then pushes himself as fast as he can. The toxins from the blood vein mold sap at his strength, leaving him in a somewhat weakened state. But he pushes himself with enough force to reach the top of the stairs, just as they retract into the wall at his heels. As he is catching his breath, he notices two things. First is a sound within the burrow entrance. The noise from the retracting stairs looks to have drawn the attention of another Ankeg. It does not emerge from its lair, but remains alert there, near the tunnel entrance, flicking its antennae. The second occurrence comes immediately after that, as Matthaios is looking at the Ankeg and making sure it has no ready access to approach. The sound of porcelain footsteps draws the Neophyte's attention. Stepping out from behind broken stony structures are three decrepit Icoriites, two to his right and one to his left. They are about 60 feet away, approaching from the shadows and rubble, drawn to the activity at the top of the stairway. They appear like acolytes with ceramic skin, and they are clearly damaged and in bad condition.
What do you want?
The coils will claim you.
The voice is faltering and eerie. The deranged things speak of taking the adventurer away. One of the ceramic acolytes takes a couple strides forward, then charges up a crackling energy within the crystal embedded between his eyes. The other near him follows suit. The first crystal fails to function, and the second one releases a slender bolt of lightning. Matthaios blocks the assault with his shield. The third acolyte comes out from behind a large chunk of broken stone. She releases her own electric ray, which sparks and sputters, and lances out in an off direction. Matthaios responds to her. He squares up, draws his javelin, and throws it. The weapon glances off the Icoriite's plating. He pushes ahead, wanting to take cover, but uncertain which direction to take. The two enemies to his back shuffle to nearby positions and stoke the crystals in their foreheads. Again, the malfunctioning crystal fails to activate properly, and the other's lightning blast scatters upon the chained shirt of the young warrior. The foe to Matthaios' front gives a subtle grimace.
The serpent's tongue comes as a storm.
Her bolt of energy again fails to launch at the correct angle. Matthaios darts ahead and goes into cover where part of the stony structure has fallen away. The crumbled chunks on the ground impede his movement, but he is able to get a substantial amount of blockage from the Icoriite's ranged attacks. The two enemies farther away shamble forward, trying to get back within sighting range of the young man. The other backs up for a clear shot against him. Matthaios deflects the lightning off his shield, draws a spark stone, and flings it at the two near each other. The crystal shatters at their feet and throws out a crackling burst of electricity. The weapon does not have as much of an impact this time, and the two ceramic statue men manage to avoid part of the blast. The shock to their systems causes strange reactions. One suffers damage to his arm, which goes half limp. The other, jolted so, utters out a booming command.
Grovel! Grovel in dread!
Matthaios calls upon his willpower and fights off the mystical command. He backs up farther through the rubble-strewn crevice, again forcing two of the foes to waste time trying to keep up. The female acolyte is able to take aim. The lightning streaks directly at Matthaios. With a focused thought, he triggers the cloud rune on his shield and deflects the attack onto one of the ceramic men. It blasts him square in the chest. The shocking bolt cracks open his torso. Blood runs out in rivulets from the fissure, and he collapses to the ground. Matthaios draws his longsword and comes charging out of the crevice. Though the Icoriite's plating is damaged, it serves her well enough to absorb the blow. The nearby male acolyte activates his imbued crystal. Matthaios shields the lightning and sees the woman's arm swing at him. He stops it with his shield as well, then returns the attack. His blade slashes her fiercely, provoking a divine utterance from her mouth.
Fall! Fall down and grovel before me!
The mystical command reaches into the Neophyte's mind. The ceramic man looses his bolt of energy. But Matthaios evades it. The one next to him tries to batter him yet again. He easily dodges the limb, but by now the command has fully taken root. He falls prostrate onto the floor, as though groveling at the feet of the Icoriite woman. The two foes fall upon Matthaios, flailing at him with their limbs. His armor stops the attack of the one with the damaged arm, but the other smacks him painfully across his head. He regains control of himself, leaps to his feet, and attacks. But in his disorientation, his strike falls awkwardly, clattering against the ceramic plating of the decrepit Icoriite. The enemies continue their assault. The male acolyte swings his partially dislocated limb, missing pitifully. Matthaios seizes upon the opportunity to make a counterattack. But the target's built-in armor repels the blade. The other enemy sees an opening and strikes. She batters the Neophyte. He grits his teeth, unwilling to give up. With determination flowing through him, he swings his sword. Alas, the strike clinks against hard plating. The foes shuffle into a flanking position. Their slams hit hard against shield and mail tunic. The warrior's longsword flashes skillfully. A downward stroke falls upon the woman's head, shattering her crystalline third eye and smashing open her porcelain face. She shrieks and falls to the ground, gushing crimson fluid from the devastating wound. Matthaios turns to the Icoriite with the damaged arm, who is making a desperate strike. The Neophyte evades the attack and responds furiously. The sword slices through the already damaged arm, chopping it off. The enemy lets out a stuttering cry, and Matthaios silences him with a powerful thrust between his torso plates. With bloodied blade and heavy breathing, the young adventurer goes away from the three felled Icoriites. Whatever purpose they once held, whatever station they once tended, they had fallen into degradation and madness.
And now there are 3 fewer servants of the coiling god stalking through these parts.
Once he has walked for a few minutes, Matthaios stops to rest. The verge of the overgrown labyrinth is rising up about him, and he needs to steady himself before entering into that wild and confusing place.